So, but I love your story. I'm looking forward to getting into it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out for the program today. I appreciate it.
Sure, sure, sure.
So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing the world. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed and influenced the way that you live and work today?
Well, I think that's a really good question. I think the pandemic was like the great equalizer. People either use that time to self-improve and make themselves better somehow or focus on some things, or just completely fell apart.
Yeah.
I think both reactions are valid. I started an animation company with a partner of mine, and we started developing real-time motion capture characters. And we did a guy named Bafo the Bear. So I started doing the first, as far as we know, animated podcast on YouTube. I did it live to air for an hour a day as a cartoon bear, interviewing celebrities on Zoom, doing comedy bits, doing man on the street stuff as a bear. And because of our technology, we were able to do it live to air. So someone would call in and there'd be a human here and Bafo the bear here conversing in real time. And it honestly, that kept me sane. Also, I play ice hockey, and with a group of guys, we play pickup a couple times a week, and we were able to convince a certain ice rink here in Southern California to let us sneak in the back door because everything was closed,
Uh-huh.
and we kept our hockey game going, and that kept us sane too. So I think by working on something new and trying to keep a vestige of a normal schedule. That's how I personally got through it. But I blacked out most of it because it was just not a great time.
It was like
But,
it was like a candle and the wax just melted down. I have no concept of time during that because we kept undulating. Like we would be able to go outside and then it was like, no, we got another variant. And then you would go back out. It was like this push and pull and the political part of it. It was like all of it was just this weird quagmire of what the hell is going on, you know?
yeah, it didn't reflect too well on our emergency preparedness and how we handled it and how people handled it. Ultimately, I think, if you're going to err, you err on the side of caution. We know more now than we did then, but I mean, it's I have no continuity of time either.
Yeah.
Something that happened before COVID could have been 2 weeks ago or 6 years ago. It was just a weird time. I'm glad it's over. My wife's birthday was March 4th, and we went to Disneyland that day for the day. She's the voice of Disneyland in the parks. And on the next day, they closed Disneyland down and the whole world shut down.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I started referring to BC as before Corona, just as the monetary. So, you're a creative force, you're an Emmy-winning force at doing so many things, but if I was to put you in front of 13-year-olds at career day in a school, and one of the kids wanted to know what you do on a daily basis for a living, how do you synthesize that for their brains?
I guess I would say I'm a storyteller, kids. I do cartoon voices. I'm Hugh Neutron on Jimmy Neutron. You might have seen that show, kids. And everything I do a lot of different things. I'm a documentarian. I did a animated feature that's coming out in October. But the one common thread for everything is storytelling, usually of a comedic form or an informational form. When I do my corporate work and my training and my learning and development stuff, that's storytelling too. You're telling people a story that can help them find their purpose and find their happiness and live more content lives. And at that point, I would probably recalibrate my vocabulary depending on how old these children were. If they were really young kids, I would just say the most important thing to do, kids, is figure out what you love to do
Yeah.
and then do that. And then figure out a way to make a living from doing that. Because I'm sure you see a lot of miserable old people running around. They're miserable because they hate their lives and they hate their jobs. And you can avoid that, kids. You don't have to fall into those same traps. So come with me. We're taking over the playground, kids. Follow me. And then I would lead a child revolt of some
And they
kind.
would totally remember you forever. What
Right, exactly.
when you were a kid, was it in your DNA to be a creative sort? Did you want to grow up and have this be your life?
I did. Yeah, I used to like I remember one of my favorite presents was an old a new cassette recorder at the time, and I would record all this is before VCRs even. I was a little kid. Um, record all the sitcoms that I liked on TV and I would listen back to them and I would make fake radio shows and fake cartoon shows and then as I got into high school I became a fan of the Firesign Theater and that was really well produced comedy theater of the mind, and I started doing that and doing fake commercials. Then I got a job at a radio station and started doing real ones. So it's always been, I have no other marketable skills really. Just I've been able to use my sense of humor, and I haven't had to have a real job since selling ladies' shoes in high school. So that's a win for me.
Absolutely. So where were you born and raised?
I was born in Chicago, grew up
Okay.
outside of Chicago, suburban Chicago, and then I came to UCLA to go to college, and then I never went back to the frozen tundra that is Chicago, Illinois.
So you had a near-death experience early on. How did that shape the way that you even live today and the way that you view this world?
I think it's in retrospect, I think it shaped it quite a bit. I was 14 and it was the first day of track practice and some kid, you throw a shot, you spin and you throw. He didn't know what he was doing and he threw it 40, 90 degrees off axis. I happened to be standing there. The shot put hit me in the back. It broke my rib. The rib popped my spleen. I almost bled to death internally. They get me to the hospital. I'm unconscious for 3 days. And the first thing I remember after I wake up is the surgeon sticking his head in the ICU bed going, "Oh, you're awake. Good thing. Another 10 minutes, you would have been dead. See ya." So at 14, I was presented with the fact that, hey, you could die. You don't start thinking about that till you're much older,
Yeah.
typically, most people. So I'm laying in bed, all stitched up, realizing, man, I could have died. And I was really fat. I was 250 pounds, super fat kid. And I just said, you know what? From now on, I'm gonna make it my business, my purpose to be happy every single day and I'm going to do whatever it takes to be happy every single day. And the first thing I have to do is lose weight. So, unlike in the past when I had tried diets in secret, I told everyone. I told all the kids at school. I told my parents, my friends, everybody, I'm going to lose 80 pounds by my birthday in 5 months. And it was amazing. I got support from everybody. The girls on the cross country track team let me run with them after school because I couldn't keep up with the boys. I ate less, I exercised more, and I lost 80 pounds in 5 months.
Wow.
And those two experiences intertwined to burn it into my brain that every day is a bonus, certainly for me after that day,
Yeah.
right? And there's nothing more important than being happy. And anything I set my mind to, here's my thought. Anything an ordinary person can do, so can I,
Yeah.
right? I'm not a professional skier. I'm not a scientist, but if like a regular person could accomplish it, I can accomplish it. It might be difficult. It might take me a long time, but I can do it. And I think that confidence um, permeates everything I do. It certainly permeates my early comedy career when, sometimes you say stuff that people don't laugh at. You become resilient, and I've really focused on only doing things that I think will increase my happiness. Sometimes I'm wrong, but every decision I make basically boils down to if I do this thing, will it make me happier or less happy? And if I believe it'll make me less happy in the long run, even though it might be fun to do right now, I don't do it. And repeating that process over time has eventually slid me into a life where really I spend 99% of my waking hours doing stuff I enjoy.
So who's been that inspirational force for you? Who's been that hero that's allowed you to find your place and to find this happiness?
Um, I guess writers, Kurt Vonnegut's material was really iconoclastic and great American author John Steinbeck, some comedian friends of mine. But basically, I don't have I don't have a plan, and I didn't have I enjoy not having a map. Every day is different, and I just kind of follow my own drum. And I've been lucky enough to be able to take the thing that I love doing, which is comedy, and make a living from it. And I think a lot of people end up, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, and they realize, man, I'm not happy. I'm sort of miserable. I've been chasing the wrong stuff. I've been chasing money or power or prestige or sex or whatever the thing they think will make them happy. And then they get it and they realize it doesn't really make them happy when happiness is what you should be really focusing on. And when I'm doing training and development in companies, I usually start, I sit everybody in a circle and I go around and I say, what were you doing the last time you were really happy? And the time before that, and the time before that. We get 10 times. And if seven of those 10 times are the same sort of similar thing, and it's not what you do on a daily basis, you've got to fix that alignment
Yeah,
and figure out a way to do that stuff more. And then automatically you will be happier. But that can be a fearful transition for some people.
yeah,
And as far as I know, we only get one life, and you should fearlessly attack this life and treat yourself with the respect you deserve. You should have the happiest life possible, but the only person that's going to go out and get that for you is you, because the rest of the world doesn't care.
yeah,
And
for sure.
and and the rest of the world will help you, but if you don't know what you want, the world's not going to help you.
No. So, when you had this dream, obviously early on, you wanted to get in the entertainment industry. You're, putting together your skits and doing all of these things, and you're constructing this dream. And then it happens. What's been the difference between that youthful glow of the dream and living this life of being in this entertainment industry you always wanted to be in?
Oh, that's another good question. What they don't tell you is you spend a lot of time chasing the work. And really, I consider that's what I get paid for. All the auditions that I don't book, all the time I spend writing and rewriting, doing the actual work, going to set on Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm or with Tracy Ullman or on a movie or whatever. That's the fun stuff. But you have to work, you got to do your 10,000 hours before you get to that point. And they don't really, no one sits you down when you're in acting school or at college and say, listen, you're going to spend 90% of your time chasing the work and 10% of your time doing it, even if you're successful and make a living at it. But that's the way it is. So I'm not upset about it or anything. It's just, um, I actually wouldn't change anything. It's turned out pretty well, and it hasn't all been perfect, but I think you always learn more from mistakes and problems than you do from success. So you just got to keep filtering it through and focusing on happiness and purpose and aiming yourself towards that. And it's a lifelong practice, I guess.
So most of us regular blue collar people that look in on the entertainment world, we have all these images and thoughts of what all of these celebrities and people live like. But being there in that world and interacting with it, who have you looked forward to running into? Like just whether it's someone that's on a staff or someone that's actually in front of the camera, who have you always been like, man, I can't wait to run into that cat at some point?
I come out of the Second City Theater in Chicago. I was a founding member of the Second City Theater here in Los Angeles. And so a lot of my heroes are comedy people. I got to meet George Carlin when I was very young and just starting out in stand-up. That was great. He was very generous and very helpful. Working with Larry David was great. Seinfeld was great. Everyone is Martin Mull had the greatest line about show business. He said, show business is high school with money. Everyone, it's isn't that a great line?
My God.
It's exactly the same. They're grown-ups, but typically they behave like children. There's cliques, there's jealousies, there's misunderstandings, there's, guys driving $700,000 cars and thinking they're cool. And it's all a show, especially coming from Chicago and living in Los Angeles. I think I'm a little more cynical than others, but luckily I have a lot of. It turns out I've been here a long time, and not by design, but most of my close friends are from the Midwest, either from Michigan or the Chicago area. Just because I think we have a vibe and we attract each other and we understand each other. But there isn't really anybody I've wanted to meet that I haven't been able to meet. I met Little Richard when I was doing my entertainment show on Fox. I've met Johnny Carson, my idol, Jimmy Stewart, and everyone. If you approach them as people, I went to see Spamalot last night, opening night here in Los Angeles, and Eric Idle was in the audience.
Yeah.
And I'll fight you on this. Monty Python were the Beatles of comedy. They reinvented comedy at a very pivotal time in the culture. And I was standing in the bathroom line between acts, and Eric is coming out of the bathroom, and I just turned to him and I said, "You, sir, are a genius." And he just turned to me a little startled and then kept walking. But uh, so I don't know if that counts as meeting him, but I, I don't know. There's nobody I'd be afraid to talk to
Yeah.
because everyone's a person. And if you approach them on that level, there's plenty of jerks. And if you approach them and they spurn you, then you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you, and you walk up to him and you hit a play button on a film projector, and your life comes up. 60-second highlight reel of the life you've lived. Would that young version of you believe that your life turned out this way?
Man, you have good questions, Joe. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because that was 18 was after the ICU stuff. And I don't, like I said, I have this confidence and I am never been afraid to figure out what I want and go get it. Even when I was young, I was that way. And I think 18-year-old would be surprised and happy at some of the things that I've done. And excited to have them unfold. But no, I don't think so. Nothing has been a shocking surprise. Your life always looks linear looking backwards, right? You can see the stones that connect to get you across the river. But as you're going, there's nothing in front of you. And I think if you fearlessly proceed towards whatever you've decided you want to chase, in my case, my purpose is happiness. So if I'm always aimed in that direction, good things happen. It's people call it karmic fate. There's a bunch of different words for it. But if you're chasing the right things in your life, the right things are attracted to you and stick to you, and the bad stuff just sloughs off. I know that sounds really woo-woo in California, but I found it to be true,
Yeah.
right? Everything you are, that cool map behind you, what you're wearing, started as an idea in your head.
Hmm.
And then you decided, oh, I'm going to put this shirt on today. I'm going to make this backdrop for my show.
Yeah.
Thoughts create reality. And every individual has the power to create their own lives. Unfortunately, I think most people don't believe that. And most people don't act as if that is true. Even if it's not true, if you act as if it's true, it works.
It makes sense to me. So let me ask you this. I'm listening to a book about David Letterman's career right now. And the beauty of walking down that nostalgic path of my memories is that I miss in this DVR, digitized, short memory span world of every night I found a way to get home to watch Late Night with David Letterman. And then I did the same thing with Conan. What was the
Mhm.
show for you in that glory romantic early days? What did you always have to watch?
Well, Letterman. I mean,
Yeah.
Carson, or when I was a kid, um, I'd sneak downstairs after my parents were asleep and I would watch Johnny Carson because I loved to watch the stand-ups. I
Yeah.
loved when Rodney Dangerfield was on.
Oh
I
yeah.
loved when Charles Grodin was sitting next to Johnny on the couch and just ripped him and was just a snotty,
Yes.
horrible guest. You're like, is this real or is it
Right.
fake? Um, and I learned, I've since gone on to host a bunch of interview shows, and I learned a lot from Carson because he always gave his guests the punchline, and he was a great listener, right? He had his prepared questions, but when the answer came back different, he didn't just go to the next question. he was present and alive and followed that, and that's where the comedy came from. And then I think Letterman, is the postmodern reconstructed version of that format, and he's so clever and snarky and funny and really played with the medium of television like Steve Allen had, 40 years ahead of him, doing all the stuff out of the studio and with audience members. It was exciting to watch because like shit would happen on that show that would make you cringe, or other shows would edit out, and Dave left it in.
Uh-huh.
And I just think he was a master at that, and I miss him. And then Jon Stewart on The Daily Show. I
Yeah.
think he's a brilliant writer, really funny, is able to find the hypocrisy in every little thing, and very economically, word wise, hit the punchlines. I think he's really clever.
So, it's one thing we hear about Oscars and Emmys and awards and we see the shows, but when you actually win one and you get that in your hands and you feel the medal and the weight and the heft and think about this life that you sweat and bled to get to, what does that statue feel like in your hands?
It's actually gratifying, because I think the people that vote for it are your peers.
Yeah.
And when I won my first Emmy, it was really cool. I mean, I thought we had been doing funny stuff, and I got a lot of feedback from the public walking down the street, that kind of stuff. But to get the award, it's just kind of like, oh, all right. I guess I was right. This stuff was funny. Yeah, and then you think, oh my God, now my career is going to explode, and nothing changes. Right now, I have my one of my nephew's college baseballs on one Emmy, and my other college nephew's hockey puck on the other one. So it makes a great stand for holding
Right.
stuff. But it's better than not winning. I don't think competitive comedy or show business really makes sense, but I believe it makes more sense now that I have some than I did before I didn't.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. So, Mark, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, colleagues, everyone in all these Venn diagrams, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I try and be a person that is open and considerate other people's feelings and enjoyable to be around. I would love to be my friend
Yeah.
because you know what? Like I said, I try and have fun every day, and not by shirking stuff I'm supposed to do, but just even let's say you're traveling somewhere, you're getting on the plane. For me, the fun starts when I leave my house, right? You're going to talk to a driver, you're going to sit on a plane next to somebody. You might as well have fun and enjoy talking to strangers along the way. When I was doing my Travel Channel show for 5 seasons, I traveled 10 months out of the year. And oftentimes my crew wouldn't come out with me at the end of the day when we were done shooting. So I would just go out wherever we were by myself, and had met some of the coolest people, had some of the greatest conversations with just, you know, random people that I never would have met if I wasn't snowed in Grand Forks,
Yep.
or on Cayocho in Miami, having a colada by myself. What I find now is that no one has silence anymore. If you're by yourself and you're sitting somewhere, you got your ear pods on or you're looking at your phone. No one just sits around and with nothing going on and just absorbs the world anymore. And I think that lack of thinking time um, ultimately is not good for our
No,
brains.
I agree. I always, after 53 years, I look at travel like the afterlife. I'm like, I go in with the best intentions. Just you know what I'm saying? You know that there's the chance there's magic every corner you go around. I remember I went to Vernazza and I was there right after 9/11 happened. I was in the back of a water taxi in Venice. And I
Mm.
read all of the Rick Steves books. And I walk at the mouth of Vernazza to go into Cinque Terre, and Rick Steves is filming a segment next to me. That's one of the most magical, you know what I'm saying? Like, of all people. And I studied his guides. That's the reason why I took routes and even found out about the poor man's Riviera. It was because of him. And
Hmm.
he's right there as the world is trying to figure out this tumultuous event that went down. Speaking of events, if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one event in human history, where are you going?
The invention of fire.
Wow. Yeah.
I'd like to know who that person was.
Yeah.
I'd like to be there, and then, uh, obviously patent it.
There you go. And make a trillion, the first trillionaire.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You'd know my name if that had happened by now. I'm
Absolutely.
Og, inventor of fire, TM.
He's the one. So if anybody wants to pick up your wonderful book and delve into your world, where's the best place to go?
You can get the book on my website, markdecarlo.com, for a signed one, or you can get a regular one on Amazon. And we do all our travel stuff on Instagram. It's Mark DeCarlo TV on Instagram. Those are
Wonderful.
the best ways. And LinkedIn if you're looking for corporate speaking and learning and development stuff.
Okay, I will put all these links in the show notes. Mark, what a joy. It's been an honor. Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out and keep on changing the world, man. It's wonderful.
Thanks, Joe. It was great talking. You have great questions, and it was great to be on the Neon show. I'm a big
Thank
fan
you.
of Neon.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah.